Today we have with us a very interesting personality, a great name in engineering. He is none other than engineer Dr. C Visvalingam. He has been a Cambridge scholar. He has got a degree from Cambridge in engineering. Then he also has a doctorate from the Imperial College London. There's a special prize that we have instituted in the Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka under his name, under his patronage. And so we are looking for people who can get this prestigious award. Who is Dr. A.C. Visvalingam? Dr. Visvalingam, first things first. So we have talked about your formative years as a young boy at Kingswood College perhaps, and then your undergraduate university career, then postgraduates, then you had a shift from Japan to United Kingdom. So all these things would have added to your formative years as an engineer, as a practitioner, as a personality of repute. So tell us a little bit about your formative years and why did you think of going in for engineering?
My family has been in engineering, not professional academic engineering, but practical engineering for at least 4 or 5 generations. They started in Pallekele and then went on to Martale and to Niccolo Estate in Rattota and also Mayfield Estate in Hatton. In other words, my great-grandfather, my grandfather and my father were all involved in doing infrastructure works for the estates like the roadways, small bridges, retaining walls, drains and even small buildings and line rooms and so on. Moreover, my grandfather had established a good workshop which was run by hydropower, which was freely available in the estate. There was a very good stream running through the estate at Niccolo Estate in Rattota, and with that he had established a powerful workshop with a Pelton turbine which ran several tools such as drills, lathes, grinders and so on. So that my family has had that history, practical history of being involved in engineering from a long time, at least 3 generations. To be quite honest, I think I became interested in engineering from the age of about 2 or 3 because my father was doing construction work and he had his workshop next to our house and I used to go there and see what he was doing and I learned a lot about the tools and even the lathe that was there, the Pelton turbine. So by the time I was 5 or 6, I knew about Pelton turbines and so on and so forth. Mr. Visvalingam was always supportive, but there were fellows in between. There was a secretary who was not a secretary, additional secretary, assistant secretary, who was, I hate to say, an old boy of Kingswood College. And he was trying to undercut me for no reason at all because I had nothing to do with him. And but despite all that, I think they knew that I had some special knowledge and strength of character which was more than that. So none of them could really harm me. Nobody could harm me. So that's the thing of being honest and competent. It's very difficult for anybody to harm you.
That's a very interesting thing, Dr. Visvalingam, that you said about being honest, having high integrity, and also sticking by your principles, no matter what, whoever may do to you. You made sure that your principles and the values on which you stood for will never be compromised under any kind of pressure. That's a very important thing that engineers should learn from you. So can you elaborate a little bit more? And so you don't have any regrets having left the Sri Lankan public service and going into the private sector?
Not at all. Wherever I've been, the first thing I've said is be true to yourself. true to the place where you're working, true to your country, and make sure that you don't do anything that will be harmful to any of these. If you do that, you cannot do anything wrong. It's impossible.
Dr. Visvalingam, it really keeps on bugging my mind. Why you left such a lucrative career in UK and Ghana and perhaps in America, and you decided to come back to Sri Lanka. Why did you do that?
To be quite honest, if I coming back to Sri Lanka, I could easily set up a business that rivaled that of Upadi Vijay because he was my university friend and I knew how his brain worked and I knew that. I could have set up some businesses, construction, especially in the field of construction, which would have been very, very successful and rivals all these big companies. What I wanted was to change the whole attitude in the country to of everybody I worked with to think of the country first and then think of their families, think of themselves last.
So, Dr. Visvalingam, you wrote to the Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka way back in October 2021 proposing that an award be made to an outstanding engineer, right? Now, in this you gave certain key attributes that this engineer should possess. And also we are talking about honesty, integrity, and also having very high skill set. And that will address ordinary mundane problems that the people face in this country, so that they will derive benefits out of the work that he or she does.
Very briefly, one would say, or I would say, that most engineers, when they are starting out learning engineering and going on to university and so on and to get their professional qualifications, the final goal that they have is the acquisition of the membership of the institution. They are not thinking beyond that. All the work that they do is towards that one target. Now, what I had in my youth was something slightly different. I thought of what Parakram Bahu did about ensuring that the people of Sri Lanka will have enough food to eat and irrigation to enable that to be done. So really I wanted to change the mindset of young engineers not to think of getting their qualifications, but to think of something beyond that. Why are we trying to get these qualifications? We are trying to get it only to get recognition so that when we give some advice, people will listen. So that is the first thing, that is to think of all these as mere tools to a bigger end. The bigger end is service to your fellow citizens and the poorer people of the country. I think not all citizens, the poorer people of this country, you must try to do something that what you do will improve their lives. Because useless making the rich people richer. What you try to do is to make poor people a little less poor. Very simple reason. If you just told a young fellow, well, go and serve people and see that you do something for the country, they don't have much incentive. They think, well, I am working hard. The next engineer next to me, that fellow is having a good time, just coming and signing his name and going home, and he is getting the same salary as I am, and he gets discouraged. Not that he's bad, but he gets discouraged. So what I wanted was to have some target which everybody would feel inclined to achieve, and that would raise the general standard of the service that engineers are providing in this country. In other words, if all the engineers made 10% extra effort towards getting this prize or whatever it was, that would be a huge contribution to the total output of engineering work in this country. So I think that's really at the back of my mind. You can't overnight change people, but you must give them incentives to want to do a little more. But you can't force them. You have to make it attractive. So prices, of course, are very attractive for two reasons. One is the price itself, especially if there's a fair amount of money. The other is the publicity you get. By getting the prize, you go and get in the newspaper, your pictures, and you meet the minister and president and so on. So there's a lot of rewards otherwise. But the real reward should be in your heart. That you should feel, I have done something for the poor people of this country. That's all.
So, can you elaborate a little bit more on this aspect of skills and going, the key words that you used, going beyond the call of duty?
It's very tempting for people in less senior positions to do those things which they think will please their seniors. They're very common. And so therefore they may not necessarily choose the best way of doing things or the best projects to do and so on and so forth. And sometimes they should in fact go against their superiors and tell them, we are doing something wrong, we should not spend our energy in this, we must spend our energy in this other way. Now to get that, you need a little bit of character. Building character is therefore very, very important. So my thinking is that if you don't give the right values to young people right from the start, in fact from school and so on, and when they, especially when they first become engineers, the first lecture they should have is, what should an engineer be? Should he just be a very clever fellow who can design a lot of beautiful things, or should he be a chap who is thinking only of the people and how to serve them, or is he something in between? And how can he combine these two together? And above all, how can he transmit his enthusiasm and his knowledge to younger people, next generation? So there's no use doing all these things unless the knowledge and information you've gathered goes to the next generation.
Going beyond the call of duty. I'd like you to emphasize on that.
That is very straightforward. For me, wherever I have been, if I am told to do a job, and while I am doing that job, I see something else that is not strictly my responsibility, but which could do with a little attention from me and will contribute to the greater good, I would immediately do it. I would not think twice about it. But in nobody's job is so clearly defined that you must do only this and nothing else. You can do a lot of things within your job, a lot of things outside your job, which are still of great benefit to the country, to the profession, to people, and so on. So you have to not hesitate to do what is right, to do what is good, to do and I would say to think of yourself last of all. Very simply, I would say I did not want the award to be given to an engineer merely because he did something clever or something new. That alone is not enough. Those are good for him and maybe good for the country in the long run. You learn about agriculture. So that is an additional benefit. But you don't do agriculture and to do this. So it depends on which you put first. So personally, I've always thought the first thing should be, how can I help this country and my people? That's the only thought I've always had from school days. How can I help to make this country less poor? Because I see so many poor people. Loyalty to the people of Sri Lanka. That is really loyalty to the idea of improving the condition of the people of Sri Lanka. If you have loyalty to that, everything else will come.
So today we met a very interesting personality, Engineer Dr. A.C. Visvalingam. And it was a real pleasure talking to him and to see his youthful views on how he expects a young engineer to perform and stay back in the country. These are inspirations to a lot of young engineers who may be thinking of greener pastures or leaving the country for whatever reason. You can go and learn something and definitely come back. Take the example of Dr. Engineer A.C. Visvalingam, whom I am sure has done a lot to the country. He has been into governance and good governance concepts and things like that. He has served in many statutory boards and corporations. So I think his contribution has been very wide and very vast and definitely very productive to the country. Thank you very much.